Hello, and welcome to a new edition of Education is the Best Medicine. And thanks for watching. And remember, community media access is your best bet. Welcome to Believe Radio, 24-hour inspirational gospel music station. I'm your host, George Pearson. I'm a physician's assistant and practicing for about 43 years. Background's family practice, internal medicine. Thanks for watching. Those that know me know the work, and we continue to try to do it. Today is a special show. I'm waiting for, if you saw my piece in Facebook, outlined some artwork and wanted to give a special shout out to Kyle Fortune. He's down in San Jose, but we'll be going to be hooking up to have this discussion around art, around mixed media, around his travels as an African American man in the community. Skateboard, the skateboard. So, I mean, he's just a plethora of information, and he's a person that I really look forward to having and talking to. Yeah, Kaya, what's going on, man? Huh? So I'm gonna see what's going on here. I'm gonna hit the hit the present here and see if we can get you on. So okay. Um, thanks for coming in. Here. Okay. Here. Kyle, you sent the invitation already? You have to send the invitation. All right, because we can't hear you on this in just a second. Let's see here. Here. Folks, having some problems. The internet is running a little bit slow, and wasn't aware of that. Um, okay, let's see here. Okay, here we go. Let's see if we can share the screen. Share. Okay. Okay. So here we go. I am still having a little few technicals with this. Here. 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 Uh, here. Here. I don't know what's going on, Kai. You're just supposed to come up. I'm sorry, folks. Everything's running really slow here. Well, I'm going to have to move ahead. Kai, can you hear me? So we're going to find out what the technicals are around doing Zoom. Initially, you have to have a functional internet and you have to have the speed in order to carry these images. So we'll see what's going on. I'm going to save Kaya's show because I want him to present it. And I want to apologize for, again, us continuing to have technical difficulties throughout these broadcasts. And I will be talking with the manager who does the best that he can with the information he's provided. So let's take this to another level here. And I wanted to talk about some general health concerns. We're going to have Kai on, I promise. Because of some systemic problems, we have to work those things out, and I apologize. Some of the big things that are going on, I think, that I'm concerned about and that I've been talking to folks about is just general health issues. We have an increase, and if you're on the Facebook, again, the connection is poor and it keeps cutting out. So if that's what you're seeing, I apologize for that also. Wanted to kind of understand more discussions around heart disease. Now, we are finding that the heart disease issue is prevalent. And when we talk about heart disease, we're talking about hypertension, we're talking about hyperlipidemia, we're talking about elevated lipids, we're talking about structural heart issues, valvular heart issues, enlargement of the heart, particularly the left ventricular hypertrophy that comes with elevated blood pressure, from genetics, from weight, from salt, from sugar. These are things which you manage. Oh, Kaya, you made it, huh?
Can you hear me, George?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Welcome, man. Technical is technical, ain't it?
Yeah.
I told you. Hey, look here. This is Kaya Fortune. I want to welcome him to the show. Kaya, thanks for hanging in there with me. We were going to talk about heart disease. I was going to save your piece until we could have you. I wasn't going to have it without you. And kind of wanted to talk to you about your journey. First of all, introduce yourself and what I did on my website, on my Facebook page, is put up one, the logo. So the logo that carries on my program is the one that you created. We created in conjunction, and it's one that I hang proudly. And if you get a chance, go on Facebook and you can see it there. And also, you did a self portrait of me, and I also put that there. And I wanted to kind of talk to you about one, introducing yourself. And I know you as an artist, as an entrepreneur, as a traveler, a world traveler, and wanted to talk a little bit about that. But also, we can get into your discussions about working with children in a very positive way in healing through art. And so that's what I wanted us to talk about today. Kaya, how you doing?
Pretty good, Brother Joyce. How you feeling today, man?
Oh, decent. It's been, Black men in America, right?
Yes, sir.
So I know you. I love you, man. Tell us the viewing public a little bit about yourself and how you got where you got and where we want to go.
Well, my name is Kaya Fortune. I've been in the Bay Area for more than 40 years. I've been teaching art in the Bay Area for about that time. I started with Museum of Children's Art, which is here in Oakland. It's been around for more than 40 years. So I've been there a very long time. And also I'm an artist and activist in the community, entrepreneur, and in the sense of creating places in the community for the students to be able to access their creativity. Brother Kada Williams and myself and other people in the community, we actually built a skate park, which is in West Oakland. You can go to it now. It's called Town Park. So building places where kids can have access. And to have that access, you have to come together as a community and build that, right? We have to not rely on other people, rely on ourselves and rely on our resources that we have. And we've always been a people of resilience. So I don't want us to forget that we're always people of resilience. And resilience means sometimes that whatever resources you don't have, you have to find people to support you and to create those resources so you can actually build things in your community and be sustainable.
I think that one of the things we've always talked about in our conversations over the year is giving back.
Right.
Not a piranha or a parasite on the community, but for all the things we've been given, to give that much back and more. That's kind of my philosophy from knowing you. That's why I don't have that many male friends, because men like yourself, there's always tends to be ego and negative energy around that, and we've never had that. We've always had a spirit of collaboration, and the event that we did together, the Equinox was one of the men events in the Bay Area.
Yeah,
that men coming in and relishing in the understanding that we were men and we were Black men, and that's what people are doing now. When we were doing it, was kind of really radical.
Yeah.
But it was an effect of trying to have a kinship with men, so you can have a kinship with your woman, so you can have kinship with your children, so you can have a kinship in general, that we are not adversaries. We work together, and that's part of why we're having you on the show. You've been a constant advocate for that kind of interaction and fellowship.
Well, I think that's important, and I think that comes from really having a philosophy around looking at where you come from and those experiences, and taking those histories and taking those ancestral sort of ideas and putting that into yourself. You have to own it, right? And once you own it and you understand that your place is to make sure as much as you can, right, that everybody else has that sort of wisdom and concepts from yourself, right? You have to build it yourself so you can pass it on to someone else, and to make sure you really instill that positivity in our communities, right? And
Yeah.
that's the only way that we're going to survive as a people. And so once we do that, hopefully we find like-minded people that want to share those concepts, you know what I mean, in different ways, and be able to make changes in our community.
Well, you were one of the first African American men I knew that extensively traveled, and you're one of the first African American men that I knew that talked about Cuba and the Yoruba tradition. Tell me about that interaction, because it does bring us back to the children in your work in the community, as well as the skateboard park. It's still skateboarding, I understand. Skateboard park, and just having kids kind of, again, deal with their pain and trauma through art.
Well, I think traveling is very important. I think another thing that's important is that some of the traditional religions that we've been given in America are not ours to own. We don't own that, right? And some of those traditions, I'm not saying all of them, and I'm not saying anything about traditional religion, but what I am saying is some of those particular ideas um, allow us to depend on someone in opposed to understanding our own personal power. So me looking at this at the Orishas and going back and looking at African religion and philosophy and culture gave me a sense of who I was, right? Even in reference and in tandem with Christianity and Islam, right? But it gave me a sense of who I was in reference to those things, but also a history separate from those things. So that's two things. And it gives you a sense of pride and understanding about yourself, right? And so once you have those tools, you're able to navigate the world, right? And you have to be able to, that sends you out to the world. It means that it makes you a creative person. It makes you a person who's into exploration. And then that exploration will allow you to go to different places to have different experiences, because you're only as powerful, right, in your mind and your spirit as your experiences, that you allow these experiences to come into yourself, and for you to have these experiences, not only so you can share them, but you can also live by them,
Tell us a little bit, me and you again, about the Yoruba religion and your time in Cuba.
Well, I didn't spend that much time, George. I spent like not that much time, maybe a month.
More than I have.
Yeah, that's true. But it was really getting into how our traditional religion reflects on how we look at life and how we actually use that in the Americas, right? In reference to Christianity, how we took some African deities, and when they came around, we were doing our spiritual connection to our deities. When they came around, we said we were associating those things with Christian gods and Christian uh, religious deities. So we always had it. We always, connected to it, even in South Carolina, different places where the traditions still live. And we always had that. I think one of the things that's a misnomer about when they teach history, particularly the slave narrative, they never talk about us as being those people who were resistant to that. There's so many cultures and so much history talking about the resistance to that, but they always want to put, even now, they always want to put you on the slave narrative. Let's talk about those people who resisted that throughout the diaspora. So you have people through the diaspora that actually resisted that. The Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Haiti, Brazil, all over the world, they resisted that.
Well, if folks that follow me and follow the program, this has been a 2-year culmination of talking about 1619 and its effect on us and our culture and who we are. And so part of that narrative that I had to embrace, not only giving the platform for it, but saying, how do we heal?
Right.
A piece that's come to my, and this is for another story and another time, the absolute brutality of so-called sex plantations
Mhm.
and the use of us as basically chattel. That's another discussion. But again, we are needing you to help us shape the narrative around, recovery and healing.
Yeah, so in so I've been teaching in Oakland for a very long time. And I think, one of the things that I try to do, just get it to me, is create a sense of a safe place for students. They have to have a safe place.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And in that safe place is allowing them at the same time to have a voice. You know what I mean? So I don't want to teach at my students. I want to teach with them, and we learn in a communal sense and have this experience. And it's
Mhm.
always good to ask them how they're feeling in the morning. How you feeling? You know what I mean? It's really the idea of having kids being resilient, right? Is
Right.
that they have to be able to trust you.
Well,
If you
well, I think too, this got us into the conversation around adverse childhood trauma
Mhm.
and your work in terms of art and that trauma. And what I mean by that is that adverse childhood trauma or adverse experience from a cultural standpoint can be intergenerational. It
Yeah,
can reflect a common pattern of abuse and a realization of dealing with that abuse.
right.
And sometimes um, this implant that happened to us really shaped how we thought about ourselves in our relationships. And so, if you start just from the womb, it creates a dynamic that's that has our kids more in trouble, more substance abuse, more violence, and now what I'm seeing is more female, assault, female crime, female, as opposed it was just males before. Now our younger females are involving themselves in the same kinds of, you know, activity as a sense of self, as a sense of community, because a lot of this gang behavior is about sense of family and community.
Right. So I come from a gang community. I come from Compton, California, and so I've seen it firsthand. And when you don't really feel that society is empowering you and supports you, and you feel a part of something, then the gangs and other people who are going to do that and support you, that makes you feel empowered. I mean, that becomes your family. In my neighborhood, that became my family. Because maybe I didn't get it from a father who didn't understand me or didn't know, who had, trauma himself, who didn't know how to support and be supportive of his child. So what you end up doing is having the streets raise you in a lot of cases. And that becomes your community. And that
Well,
becomes all you know because you're isolated from the rest of any other type of experience.
but we shared stories, and one of those things that you said to me as you started on this art career and this art journey, and I'd like to
Mhm.
talk to you about your interpretation of how you think your art presents, and whether it be mixed media or whatever,
Right.
how what is your vocal message in that? I remember you were telling you were traveling through Watts, and you saw this brother was collecting items to
Hmm.
create his artwork with. And that's in that same discussion around that we know from a bigger part, artists and creators always take from their communities, not take in the sense of taking, but in the sense of these are things that we're going to make anew. We're going to refurbish them. We're going to
Right. Right.
re-present them. And I always remember you always told me that story. That's one of the quintessential things that got you into art.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to see people like Simon Rodia, who actually the first person to construct the Watts Tower, and to see a person who do it single handedly, who
Look
support
that up, folks. Watch Tower in LA. Look that up.
Yeah, Watts Tower. Look at that, the history of that up. And when you see people who are gathering things, in his community, and other artists that I was influenced, John Otterbridge and other people who did who are the godfathers of what they call assemblage sculpture in California. And Noah Pilford was also part of that. And so you can see people taking different things from different places, right? And just it could be trash, it could be repurposing things to create a sculpture or a piece, right? So they added value to that. They never wanted to get qualified by society or the art world to add value. They add value. So we have to add value to the things that we do and our experiences, what we do. Once we add value, then we can own it, right? And we share with the world later on. But that's what I did. I saw people doing assemblage sculptures because it was accessible. This is something that you can do, right? And also the whole idea about creativity is that you can create your own safe space in your mind, in your body, right? Once you create that safe space, it empowers you, right? So in this way, you don't need anybody else to qualify you once you feel empowered about your creative medium.
So is this one of the reasons there really are, among other things, removing art and art basically, and the liberal arts that have value in terms of just our life, whether it be the dance or music culturation or artwork. I understand that in this next cuts, those things are going to happen throughout the school.
They're already happening.
Yeah. So how do you have an institution that says it wants you to learn, but unlearns you? And when you go there, it's just an empty facility. It's not something that I think in my times refurbished me and allowed me to learn and grow, and become the person and make some mistakes, but learn and grow from those mistakes. I don't think kids have that option now. Either you're on a track to somewhere or a track to nowhere.
Right. Well, we live in America. We live in a capitalist society, and it's based on consumerism. Okay? It's not based on creativity. It's based on consumerism. So what the energy you're going to put on is based on is not on educating kids on how to do art. That's why the Museum of Children's Art, which is MOCA, I've been associated for years, our plight has been educating children in the community about art activity and art expression.
You didn't say guns. You didn't say, militarism. You said art in the community. Seems like a pretty safe thing to me.
It's very safe, but it empowers people, gives people too much power, and they want to control that narrative, right? They make money off of drugs and alcohol, you know what I mean? That's part of that consumer base, right? That is part of the consumerism because that's how they make money off of misery. That's how they make money. So if we start doing art and being creative and empowering, then they have less power and then we have more power in our communities. So we have to really work on that idea because young people would more or less spend money on getting a Louis Vuitton bag instead of buying paintbrushes.
Yeah. It's definitely a value system. And it's definitely, and that's why we're having you on, because, we can always talk about a rediscovering of the culture, a rediscovering of our place in it, a rediscovering of our historical nuances. And I think that's one of the ways our history and our stories told is through art, through the kind of work that you've done.
Every culture in the world story is communicated through art. There's not a culture you can see. Every culture is defined by the creative process. There's no culture. When you go to Greece and when you go to Rome, you know where you're going to go. You're going to the Colosseum. You know what I mean? You're not going to the corner liquor store. You're going to the Colosseum.
Exactly.
Right? And so in America, they have separated the idea of creativity. So you have art, music, dance, theater. But in our traditional values from the motherland, all these particular things are one. They're not separate entities. And then what happens is that they know that if you allow people to have what we call critical thinking and independent thinking, that you can't control the narrative anymore. So
Right.
that's why even in schools, you don't have any independent thinking skills. You don't have any independent anything, right? The narrative is pushed at you. And if you can't respond to that narrative that's pushed at you, then you're a failure. I'm not one time thinking that I might be a good artist. I might be a good photographer. I might be a good graphic designer. I might be, all these things, because you're not providing the tools or the atmosphere for me to explore those things, because it has something to do, with institutionalized racism.
It's structured.
Yeah.
It's structured.
Yeah.
And we don't see more Black art teachers because that would be too many. It'd be too many of any of us. And that's kind of sad, because if you want this to be a colorblind society, then you have to understand why it had been, or it still is a colorblind society. So colorblind to you, colorblind to me.
Right.
We don't exist. Invisible Man, Spook is set by the door. Pick any slave narrative, and so does it get kind of tiring sometimes, Kaya? Because you've been having this conversation almost as long as I have, probably a little bit longer, and sometimes it gets tired.
Yeah, it wears on you all the time. But you have to take a moment, take a breath, like I tell the kids, and become resilient. Resiliency is what we have always been. And even now that we're dealing with a lot of these different political issues that we're addressing, resiliency is going to allow us to not understand, but overstand what is going on in this world. We have always dealt with this particularly. I don't care who politically and social you have in office. I don't care what Democrat, whatever it is. We have to deal with the same issues over and over again politically, right? So
I'm sorry. This is why I brought up 1619, because that is the foundation by which we has progressed. And I would say in 2025, it's the same dog whistle, just different dogs. And now the dogs are younger.
That's it.
So I guess what I'm saying to you, and I want to say to the viewers, is that while you're on, is that we want to ensure that these voices have never been quiet. Is whether you want to listen to them or not.
Right.
Is whether they resonate in your heart and soul, or if you are in denial. Because if you're in denial, then we don't understand, a predator being president.
Right.
We should understand that.
Right. Exactly.
Seriously. That's the real deal, right? What we're trying to do is combat that. And when you have discussions that say that it's okay for somebody, but not okay for others, then it's a total disrespect to everybody.
Yeah.
So part of the thing that I think you bring to the table is empathy, understanding, and that we are better as a whole than parts. But if it's going to be parts, then they have to be active parts.
Right.
Because I think that during the 1800s, they had this physician who said that he made a diagnosis of African folk ex-slaves as called drapetomania. And so drapetomania says that that if you were an enslaved person, why would you want to leave that? And if you did, you must have been sick.
Right.
You must have had a problem. It's kind of like, I think we are anesthetized to the things that happen because they're so brutal to us. That's where this adverse childhood trauma comes in, because you have to bury that, or you can't survive, you can't live, you can't function. you know, it's the same way, we were having this discussion, and I told you to go look at the protest psychosis,
Right.
and you automatically knew what it was. You automatically had dealing with folk that understood the concept.
Mm-hmm.
Man, if I went through 100 people, they wouldn't know what I was talking about. And
And
then
I
when
think,
you put them to the arena and they look at it, they go like, "What?" Oh, folks, like I said before, you should look at the protest psychosis by Dr. Metzel,
mm-hmm.
Mentzel. In fact, Kaya met him. And so these are the kind of discussions that we have to have, because if you can take a disease like schizophrenia and make it a black male disease, then
Mm-hmm.
all bets are off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what
And
happened.
yeah, and it's I recently met my other parts of my dad's family, and I went through the family book the other day, and I found out that my great grandfather was admitted to a mental institution, and he died there, and that was part of how he was in. That's how he actually they put him in there, because he was so resistant to what was happening in that community.
Right.
And because
So
he
yeah.
was so because so he was so resistant to it, and you know what I mean, and sort of a
He was,
revolutionary perspective, they
yeah.
put him in the mental hospital and he never left.
Yeah. And that's the narrative. If you don't drink the Kool-Aid, you probably die. You know.
That is
So
true, yeah.
that's where our lineage comes from,
Hmm.
And it's really kind of interesting that this is why there's been a stamp down on history, because history reveals not what you thought had happened, but what happened.
Exactly.
So if you don't like the slave narrative, then I'm sorry, because that's what happened. So if we can't talk about the slave narrative, we can't talk about George Washington, Jefferson, or
Mhm.
Lincoln.
Right.
You know. So we've got about 15 minutes, Kaya, and I want to kind of like thank you before we even get off,
Okay.
uh, because I know you're busy and you did a special piece for me. I really appreciate it. But I just think folks like you need to be heard. What's going on now with Kaya Fortune? I understand that maybe there's you're going to be doing recent showings and stuff like that. What's happening with you?
Well,
That's what.
my thing is still working with the youth in the community, still working with the Museum of Children's Art in Oakland. Support that if you can. And
What's that again, sir?
The Museum of Children's Art in Oakland. So that's where I work at as a curator, art, and educator there.
Where's it located?
It's located on Broadway. I'll make sure in the chat I'll send you the address and everything.
Please. Okay.
And so we want to support those institutions in the community that support our young people. We're in more than 30 schools in Oakland Unified School District. And we are the ones that go out and minister in arts and education, if you want to use that term. And we are making sure that our communities become resilient. We come out and we want to support the young people, create a safe space for them, allow them to have their own voice, empowering voice, to see what they think about, and then have the idea where they become part of the learning process. We all are part of that learning process. So we want the children to become part of the learning process. We want to see smiles. We'll see growth when they can trust you. They have a sense of trust with you. And then you're able to employ these different ideas to help them have different perspectives on these different types of art disciplines. We call it the elements of art, but they be able to understand these basic ideas to be able to build around their life. So we say art and life, right?
What are some of the classes that someone could take, or everything from, I guess, from mixed media to, and now how are you doing with the internet and AI in terms of this art experience?
You can go to the MoCA website. Just go to Museum of Children's Art website, and it gives you different things, different activities, and different programs we have providing for people in the community. Basically, a lot of what we do is at the our site downtown Oakland, but a lot of what we do is going to be outreach in the community. So
Sounds like a great place to visit. Sounds like a great place to take the kids.
mhm.
What are the hours of the gallery, if you can give that out?
Well, the gallery hours are, if you go to our website, you'll see that we have something called Open Studio that's on the weekends, basically, a lot of times weekends. And then we have other drop ins. So you can just go to the MoCA website and it'll let you know about all the other programs we have providing for the community.
Okay. And always you can contribute.
Yes.
Okay.
Always
Please
try
do.
to put something in there if you can, you know.
Well, I think that, I want to ask you what you thought about the future. You use the
Uh,
word resilience, and I
I
think
like to
that
use the word, we use the word resilience is how we have to continue to maintain, no matter what we're challenged with, maintain our integrity, maintain our vision, and make sure that we associate with different organizations in our community that can help do that. You know what I mean? We have lots of different Black Cultural Zone. We have lots of different organizations that are really doing great things, particularly in East Oakland, but throughout Oakland. And so we need to support those organizations. We need to
Black
volunteer with those
Museum.
organizations. Yeah, Black Cultural Zone. Yeah. We need to volunteer with those organizations. We need to get on the board. We need to be proactive with those organizations and support every organization you can in the community that's supporting uh, young people in this community. That's how we grow. So, I mean, we all have a job to do. We have a lot of elders in the community who are retired. You know what I mean? I always say, reach out to them to say, look, reactivate your spirit because we need you. Whatever profession you have, whatever background you might have, we need you in the community to come and support us and to support
So
the
no
young.
sitting on the fence, huh?
No sitting on the fence. You know what I mean? I'm old school too. What I mean? I continuously, this is part of my life, right? It has to be a part of your life and lifestyle, is to push the narrative to help as many people as you can while you're on this planet.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that you do push the narrative. You help us and our children be resilient. Your work in the community, as far as I'm concerned, is stellar, and your artwork hangs in my home. Where I get a chance to enjoy it. I think that I would like you to have a discussion about how folks can get through and deal with this time. I think you said it a couple of times in ways we can understand: resilience, working in the community, not sitting on the fence. But if you just had a recipe for kind of getting through this particular time, what would it be?
I would say the recipe is to spend more time focusing on the goals you want to accomplish for yourself, your family, and your community.
Mm-hmm.
Actualize those goals. Because if you're constantly actualizing those goals, everything else that's going around politically matters but doesn't matter in the face that you are constantly in motion of making that change. And so we're in the focus of making that change, like yourself and I, Brother George, we're in the focus of communicating that change. Then nobody can come in between that.
Mm-hmm.
When you allow people to wedge themselves in between it, that causes confusion. You understand? That causes confusion. And so as long as we are together in our mindsets and moving forward, then nothing can come between that.
That's great, man. And look, we've always I have to tell folks about this. We did a male group piece of Vernal Equinox, and I can remember us talking about that, and I talked about earlier in the show, but that was just so cutting edge, and I think that we both agreed that the Equinox would be a great way to highlight this experience for men.
Mhm.
I think you had thought about it. I don't think I thought about it. We just that was kind of something that we both came together, but the whole Equinox piece was, I was going to review it again, but I just didn't have time. The Equinox piece was about a reliving, a change, and a move to a transition.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and the way the Earth moves was in line with this particular event, and it was just
Yeah.
it happened on that night. It was kind of interesting too.
Actually, it did. And I
Yeah.
think it was time that we, you know, as Black men get together and talk and have these very intimate conversations about, you know, how we're feeling. You know what I mean? There's some organizations now. I can't remember this brother's name. Yeah, but you know, I think that was important to be able to talk about Black men's mental health and come together and be able to,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, communicate around that.
It was a discussion in its infancy, and now it's just gotten full blown.
You know, a lot of people are doing it now. A lot of people
Yeah.
are doing that, and that's so important. You know what I mean? Because we have to be able to understand our trauma, right? You know, and in understanding that, you have a sense of liberation, and you're able to communicate and love people around you more, right?
Well, the state of Black men in America, and because this is kind of like a mental health advocacy show.
Mhm.
As Deion Sanders said, go get checked out, get yourself checked out, get the blood work done.
Yeah.
Make an investment in yourself and your health. You know, he was caught by screening. If he's not getting screened, then we might not have Deion. You know, we want to give a special shout out to his son, who, against all odds, is just making an impact. Just making an impact.
Yeah, really, I'm really proud of that. Yeah.
In spite of Black men always having to do extra amount.
Yeah.
And see, that's the narrative that people need to understand. But not that he plays football, is that he is a young Black man trying to do the best he can and make it in a world that wasn't made for him. Vis-a-vis, he's getting more money off of shirt sales than he is playing. If he didn't do anything else, he sold more jerseys than he did playing. And yesterday he was just absolutely on point for a rookie. But those are the kind of issues that you talk about supporting. Without a strong family, without a strong, you know, people that love him and want him to be the best, he could have cracked.
Right.
And that's what we're having. A lot of our children, girls and boys, men and women, crack under this pressure because it was designed to crack us.
Mm-hmm.
So where travels to next, sir?
You know, that's a good question. I probably would go to.
Do you leave the country right now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Here. I think would you leave the country right now?
A couple of years ago to Ghana. That was really great with my job with the museum, and that was a beautiful thing. So I want to go back to Ghana and see and explore that a little more. Ghana and probably Senegal and probably Kenya, those areas, those particular places. I want to check out and see what the art's about. And those particular places really had an art culture. And that's where, when you go back home, when you go visit, that's where you find out where you come from. And you find out that those things are a part of you that always was there, right? Mm-hmm. We, in America, when you go to art school, wherever, it's always a European narrative. It's never African narrative. It's always a European narrative. Right. So I think we have to make sure that we're always conscious about our traditional narratives and that we reflect that in our artwork in any way we see fit, because it doesn't have to always be an image of a Black person or whatever, but it's just whatever way you feel fit. My stuff is very abstract, but the narrative is African symbolism. That's my basic idea of where I'm taking it to with what I'm trying to project.
And that symbolism would be for you in the horse of our what? Three. How about three characteristics of that symbolism?
One of it is line and shape. The lines of traditional African artists or particular symbolism of some sort. So creating a replica of that using lines and shapes. Also using the idea of abstraction, which is African concept and idea, which is taking maybe different ideas from different cultures, symbolism, stories from different cultures, and take and color and adding those particular elements into that line and shape and form.
So in African art, the female plays a prominent role. What is your concept of that in African art, and how have you used it in your art, if any?
Well, you have Yemanya, you have Oya, you have Mama Wata, you have all these female spirits and deities, right? In African art, and in the diaspora in general. So those female spirits have always driven me in my artwork. You know what I mean? And Shango and these other deities that we have. Because of course my mother and my aunts and grandmother and all that have been the pinnacle, like foundation of our families. So those spiritual women always exist, and we need to empower them. You know what I mean? Because in American society, women are like always demonized. It's always like a second-class citizen. You know what I mean? But if you go back to traditional African religion, you understand that they are the center of the community and center of the society. And you have to, and you must, as a conscious African person, honor and respect them as queens.
But and not necessarily the narrative of the strong Black woman, which I think is a misnomer.
That's a different narrative, because that says you can't have any emotions. When they create that, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's just like it's like the same thing, like a strong Black man. You can't have any feelings and emotions around it. You have to hide those feelings and emotions. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, we have to be very careful on how they try to redefine us for us.
Well, we've come back to a full circle, and we've got about 7 minutes left. I'm going to give you the last 2 minutes for the final word, because I think that it's important that my guests always be able to leave what they leave as they come. They leave us with something.
Right.
I think that one of the major concerns. This started on. This is a 20-year relationship. You were on Education and Medicine, the first iteration,
right? And
we're going to bring those shows back as a capsulation of the history. But this is the future now, and we want to make sure that we have you coming back on as a resident guest to share your knowledge on the things that you're doing, and anything we can advocate for you to advocate with. I think it's important. Really wasn't aware, see how much I know of the Children's Museum. I think that's a great way to spend an afternoon and understanding in an open artistry that Oakland needs to know and have more of those things as outlets. And I think where's it at again?
Where's where?
The gallery again.
Oh, my gallery is on 3rd and Jefferson in downtown Oakland.
Okay. So you have a gallery yourself, or is it the Monk Gallery?
My workplace and gallery where I have myself.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll put the number in there, and then people want to come by and see, have a chat, talk. And then I'll be posting some more stuff.
It's a great place to visit,
Yeah. And then I'll be posting more stuff on Instagram so people can see.
Expand your culture, expand your time. Maybe you put some shots of the space on and run them through my Facebook. Love to.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because we want people to engage and interface with the people that come on here now, because they need that. We need that. We need to know that we're not by ourselves, and that the things that you do matter and very important. This show was I guess a month in the planning, right? A couple weeks in the planning. We met in Juneteenth, so it takes about that much time to pull these kinds of things together. I'm just so glad you had the time to do it, and I want to thank you, that special person in the background that helped us get this going. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I want you to share in the last couple minutes, we got the final word in terms of you as a African American man, as an artist, as a purveyor of the culture, and as a teacher of our children.
I always say, surround yourself with like-minded people. Sometimes you have to take this journey alone. My mother always said, you take the journey alone, but you will find at the end of the road, when you get to your journey, your destination, you will find like-minded people. So sometimes you have to take the journey alone.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times we have to have somebody with us all the time.
That's true.
And I think whatever experience you want to have, you have to be bodacious. I use that old school word, bodacious enough to leave your community, your house, wherever you are, and then journey. Like the old saying is, you got to get off your horse, right? To really have an experience, right? You got to get off and hit the ground and be able to talk and communicate with people to be able to have these series of experiences, to build it up in yourself as a person. So it creates this resiliency, but it also creates this idea where you're able to communicate with different people on different levels when it's time to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think that gives you the power to navigate this world and to have a better understanding of it. And learning is a continuous process.
Okay.
Never stop learning. I don't care what it is. Grab a book, grab something. You got the internet now. You can go. I love it. You can go crazy. I can go all night. So I think invest in yourself in continuously learning and connecting with people in the community that supports your ideas, right? And always travel, right? This is not the end all. Trust me, right? You can always go and find your place somewhere else in this world. And so go find that. Go find that place. Go explore. Read and research and be, inspired. And also be inspired to change your community and yourself. Be inspired to do that. And be inspired to touch people. Even when you walk down the street, say hello. It's a simple exercise, right? You can diffuse.
Don't be mean mugging, huh?
Right. Yeah. You can diffuse a lot of energy if you just say hello to somebody, right? That's creating that safe space between you and somebody else, right? Who just might need that. You know what I mean? And so I think that's one of the things I had to do more of, because I used to be like me mugging like everybody, just walking, man, I'm going somewhere, but open that up and have that sort of spiritual exchange by just saying hello to someone, because you never know who might just need that. And, you made their day by just simply saying hello and communicating. You know what I mean? So I'm going to end with that, Brother George. Peace and blessings. Thank you very much for having me on the program and being able to have
I want to say again, thank you for being who you are. We continue to believe that folks like yourself make our world such a much better place. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the rest of the week. We'll be talking pretty soon. Much appreciation, much love. You are one of the men in my world that I am really blessed to have, because you can't avoid the haters. And so you always have to believe in people that have been supported and had your back. And on all occasions when I've called on you and you've been able to call on me, we've had each other's back. And I think that says something about my state and the black men I choose to bring myself around. Ain't that many, but they're a tough group. Last word.
Last word. Oh man.
Better hurry because it's goodbye.
All right. Well, resiliency and keep on trucking. How about that?
Hey, man, thanks for coming on. Love you, man. Talk to you.
All right, brother. Peace and blessings.